Hi everyone, so we are back for part 2. So let's go through this. Okay, point 60. We're 26 pages into a 259 page document, but I promise you it will be worth it. All right. The other thing is I know that some other content creators they've kind of picked specific things. I don't do that. I have said this before. I like to try and go through the entire thing because that's how these documents should be read. All right. Point 60. All filming during the first phase of filming took place on a set in New Jersey. That is undisputed. None of Lively's sexually explicit scenes or scenes involving simulated nudity were rehearsed or filmed during this initial period. Those scenes were rehearsed and filmed during a later phase of filming without issue or incident. Lively disputed a scene involving simulated nudity in which she's obviously going to be referring to the birth scene here, but the rest is redacted. I don't know why it's redacted because we know that's the only scene that she refers to as being simulated nudity in her complaint, so we know it's the birth scene. Speaking of, okay. A scene in which Lively's character gives birth was filmed on May 22nd, 2023, undisputed. Lively claims that the birthing scene constituted an intimate scene because there was implied nudity. Lively, undisputed. Footage of the birthing scene shows Lively covered with a hospital gown and prosthetic pregnancy belly. Lively. Bearing in mind, Lively said she was only covered with from the waist down with a small piece of fabric over her genitalia, a modesty strip it's called in the film industry. Lively disputed as incomplete and misleading. While certain footage of the birthing scene shows Lively wearing a hospital gown and prosthetic pregnancy belly, redacted. Accordingly, the cited footage, which is still under seal, by the way, guys, so infuriating. They have actually, it's included as part of the motion for summary judgment from Wayfarer, but it is under seal. Accordingly, the cited footage does not fully or accurately reflect the redacted. Yeah, but don't believe your eyes. Okay, point 65 is completely redacted. However, Lively responds, undisputed that Talbot's testimony included the quoted language, Talbot being Lizzie Talbot, but it's disputed to the extent this testimony is interpreted to suggest that redacted. Point 66 is redacted, as is the response. Point 77 is redacted. Lively's response to point 77, undisputed that the only simulated sex scene shot in the first phase of production did not involve Lively. Disputed to the extent that redacted. 68 is redacted, but Lively doesn't dispute it. On June 11th, 2023, before the Young Lily and Young Atlas intimate scene was filmed, Baldoni flagged to the production team that they would need to coordinate and work with the intimacy coordinator. Lively does not dispute that. Point 70 is redacted entirely. Lively, undisputed that, redacted. Disputed, however, that, redacted. And then everything else is redacted. Point 71 is redacted. Lively, undisputed that the quoted language, it's the undisputed but reference I mentioned in video 1, where she can't dispute it because it's very clear that the evidence says exactly what Wayfarer are saying it says. But then she tries to throw in but court, I refer you to the cited source for complete contents. So she's implying that there is nuance or context that's missing. Okay, and then the rest of her response is redacted. Point 72. Ferreira also wrote to Baldoni to thank him for an incredible experience on the set. She continued, "You are such a wonderful, smart, sincere director, and you created such a comfortable space for me to feel like I could fully step into this role. I couldn't have asked for a more welcoming environment. It will stay with me for the rest of my life." Let's see how Lively spins this, because we've seen that text. Undisputed that the quoted language, so it's undisputed, but, and then there's a hell of a lot that's redacted in the rest of the response. In her second amended complaint and deposition testimony, Lively points to various alleged incidents prior to or during this first phase of filming, which she alleges amounted to sexual harassment and contributed to a hostile work environment. Lively, undisputed. Next point, completely redacted. Lively, undisputed that the meeting took place at Lively's apartment, but disputed that, redacted, which is not accurate and which the evidence does not support. Next point is entirely redacted, but it's also undisputed. Point 76 is also completely redacted, but Lively's response disputed. Lively told her husband and her agent about the comment, but does not recall when. Next point. On February 28th, 2023, after that initial meeting, Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, wrote to Baldoni. Redacted. Lively, undisputed that the quoted language, etc., appears, but. Next point. On or around April 23rd, 2023, outside the workplace and outside the presence of any Wayfarer Studios or Ainsworth's movie employee, Baldoni privately asked a personal trainer he had consulted with, who was working separately with Lively, what Lively would weigh when filming began. Okay, so we're getting to Don Saladino. Lively's response. Undisputed that Baldoni asked Lively's longtime personal trainer how much Lively would weigh when filming began, but otherwise disputed as incomplete and misleading. The cited testimony does not establish where Baldoni was located when he asked Lively's longtime personal trainer about her weight, nor does it identify who was present at the time. The testimony also does not support the assertion that this occurred outside the presence of any Wayfarer Studios or It Ends With Us employee. To the contrary, Baldoni testified that he shared screenshots of this conversation with Mitch Toskovich, who is employed by Wayfarer as VP of Operations. Yeah, okay, so Mitch Toskovich, don't forget, is like an assistant to HR. The weight is only being asked for in the context of health and safety. Now, he may well have shared screenshots of the conversation, but as Baldoni, to our knowledge, was never told how much Lively actually weighed. Certainly not in text form. Those screenshots would not have included her weight. So by sharing the screenshots, he's still asking the question technically outside the earshot of employees, but also this is a relevant employee. And I just, I mean, we're splitting hairs here again, but, you know, the answer, Lively's weight was not in those screenshots. So, and given that the huge backlash that seemed to trigger, I think Baldoni did the right thing by saying, hey, look, I had this conversation with this guy. And, you know, Ryan Reynolds keeps yelling at me about it. I think that's the sensible thing to do, is to let someone in the human resources sort of side of things know, you know, and the legal side of things, let them know there's some backlash coming from this conversation, but look, here's the nature of the conversation. It's perfectly innocent, and they're making a big fuss of nothing. But again, she's splitting hairs. You know, if Baldoni has texted Don Saladino and said, "Hey, I've got back issues," which Don Saladino knows because he was also Baldoni's trainer, by the way. So they're misleading when they misrepresent the situation when they keep omitting that fact. Yes, he was Lively's long-time personal trainer. He was also Justin Baldoni's personal trainer. So if Justin Baldoni has texted his personal trainer and who knows about his back problems and says, "Hey, I've got to do this scene where's the lift. Do you know how much Blake's going to weigh roughly at the time we film it?" I don't, that is clearly not in earshot of people for gossip or fodder. And I don't like the way that hair is being split there because screenshots of a conversation were shared, probably because of the fact that such a ridiculous backlash then took place over something which was quite innocent and quite essential as well. Okay. Baldoni, who suffers from chronic back issues, asked in anticipation of a scene in which he was expected to lift her. Blah, blah, blah. And then something's redacted. Right. So she's disputing this, saying the cited testimony does not state that Baldoni suffers from chronic back issues. Right. That may be fair. Okay, because you've got to prove that you can't just say, I mean, it is quite widely known in publicly available information that Justin Baldoni has back problems. But you can't you can't just take it as a given. He's got to present that evidence. Okay. And defendants identify no evidence supporting that assertion. So it's for them to identify the evidence. It doesn't necessarily have to be medical records. It can be people with knowledge of the back problems, like the personal trainer. Okay, next point. Documentary evidence shows that Baldoni contemplated including such a scene in the film as late as December 28th. Okay. She flatly denied that. She said in her complaint that there was no lift scene. Now she is not disputing the evidence that shows that there was going to be a lift scene. But she also refers the court to the document for its complete contents. Baldoni never made the same comment in Lively's presence or in the presence of any cast or crew member. She disputes this as incomplete and misleading. Says the cited testimony does not indicate whether Baldoni made the same comment in Lively's presence or in the presence of any cast or crew member. The trainer, acting on his own, decided to share the comment with Lively. She disputes this. The cited source does not indicate whether the trainer was acting on his own when he decided to share the comment with Lively, and the evidence that Baldoni initiated the inquiry about Lively's weight supports an inference that the trainer shared the question as a result of Baldoni's inquiry and or at his behest. Okay. The next bit. On or about April 25th, 2023, Baldoni met with Lively at her apartment. Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, and two other famous friends who we know were Hugh Jackman and Taylor Swift. Reynolds chastised Baldoni for commenting on a woman's weight. Lively. Undisputed that Baldoni and Lively met on or about April 25th, 2023, during which time Lively confronted Baldoni about asking her trainer about her weight. So she's changing it there. Like she's like, I don't dispute it. And then she's kind of changing the wording almost in her response from Reynolds chastised Baldoni to Lively confronted Baldoni. It's disputed that the two other famous friends were there during this discussion. So she is saying that Hugh Jackman and Taylor Swift were not there. I don't see why. I don't believe that. I don't see why Justin Baldoni would say that. Okay. Lively subsequently described the meeting to a friend as follows. It's redacted. I want to know. I really want to know. But her response, undisputed that the quoted language, blah, 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 appears, but court, I refer you to the cited source. Okay. Next point. Lively also alleged that Baldoni shamed Lively for her body and weight by offering to connect her with a specialist in probiotics after Lively caught strep throat because Lively alleges the expert was instead a weight loss specialist. Lively has not offered any admissible evidence supporting that claim. She did not discuss it during her deposition, and she has not produced any documentary evidence indicating that the expert was a weight loss specialist. Documentary evidence shows that Baldoni discussed Lively's illness with the specialist and not her weight. And she does not dispute it. In terms of the allegation that is in her second amended complaint that this was a weight loss specialist, or that she was not actually asked about the incident during her deposition. Otherwise, it's disputed and the rest is redacted. Okay. In late April 2023, before filming began, Sony executive Ange Giannetti encouraged Baldoni to shoot an R-rated film to reflect the content of the book. In April 28th, 2023, she wrote, "I will update Sony. You are going to try and get as much tasteful hot sex as you can. You find out if we are PG-13. Will Colleen be okay? And does she think her readers will be okay?" Lively. Undisputed that Giannetti sent a text message to Baldoni on a specified date containing that language. Otherwise disputed. The exhibit does not show that Giannetti encouraged Baldoni to shoot an R-rated film. Well, if Sony are asking for as much hot sex as possible, that's R-rated. Instead, Wayfarer Exhibit 84 reflects that Baldoni stated he would do everything he can to shoot an R film. Nothing in Wayfarer Exhibit 84 attributes this suggestion to Giannetti, Sony, or anyone else. Wayfarer Exhibit 84 also does not support the proposition that an R-rated film would reflect the content of the book. It does. In fact, Hoover stated that she does not believe the book is filled with sex. She did not read her book. Contradicting the defendant's implication that an R rating was required to reflect the content of the book. And then they quote Alex Sachs's opinion again that making this film PG-13 has proven without a doubt to be what's best for the film and the audience. Okay. Baldoni discussed Giannetti and Sony's suggestion about additional and more explicit sex scenes with Lively and Colleen Hoover. She disputes it. Wayfarer Exhibit 85 reflects a discussion between Baldoni and Hoover regarding the characters' emotional connection and sex scenes, but also does not reflect a discussion of explicit sex scenes or any suggestion from Giannetti. Lively respectfully refers the court to the cited source for its complete contents and disputes any summary or interpretation inconsistent therewith. On or about May 4th, 2023, Baldoni worked with Elizabeth Talbot, the film's intimacy coordinator, to add specifics to the intimate scenes. He suggested Talbot discuss the scenes with Lively to determine how to portray more sexual intimacy in a manner inconsistent with Lively's personal boundaries and preferences. Lively. Undisputed that Wayfarer Exhibit 55 includes notes on intimate scenes, but disputed to the extent that Wayfarer Exhibit 55 is construed as identifying all intimate scenes filmed. It is further disputed that Wayfarer Exhibit 57 reflects any suggestion by Baldoni that Talbot discussed the scenes with Lively to determine how to portray more sexual intimacy in a manner consistent with Lively's personal boundaries and preferences. Wayfarer Exhibit 57 instead reflects Baldoni's redacted. Response 89 is redacted. Statement 89 is redacted. Lively's response disputed. Wayfarer Exhibit 56 does not support the characterization that, and it's redacted. Statement 90 is redacted in full. but Lively does not dispute it. Statement 91 is also redacted, and Lively does not dispute it. 92. Such discussion took place in the context of planning and choreographing a sex scene. Lively first volunteered her own personal experience before Baldoni shared his. Lively, disputed, and then everything after it is redacted. Baldoni has publicly discussed his prior addiction to pornography on his podcast, which is aimed at male audiences, and in his published books. Lively, undisputed. Statement 94 is redacted. Lively does not dispute it. 95. We're getting onto the makeup trailer bit now with Jamie Heath. On one occasion, on or about May 16th, 2023, Heath entered Lively's makeup trailer while she was having her makeup removed. They had a brief conversation concerning work-related issue. Then the rest of it is redacted. Lively, undisputed that Heath entered Lively's makeup trailer on May 16th, 2023, and that Lively was having her makeup removed, but otherwise disputed as complete, incomplete, and misleading, and then the rest is redacted. 96. Heath had been seeking to schedule a meeting with Lively, Baldoni, and Giannetti after several failed attempts. At the end of the shooting for the day, Heath suggested that they meet the following day. Lively said that they could meet at her makeup trailer to discuss the timing for the meeting. Lively, disputed as incomplete and misleading on the second day of filming, and then everything's redacted. Okay. 97. Heath knocked on Lively's trailer door and Lively permitted him to come in. Okay, I'm going to say comment on this. Alex Sachs, in her deposition, also said that Heath was permitted to go in on condition that he turned away. He was, faced away from Lively because she was having makeup removed. So it's not just Heath saying that. Alex Sachs said that in her deposition. Lively's response, disputed, and then everything is redacted. Lively asked Heath to turn around while he was speaking to her, and he did. Then the next bit is redacted. They quoted text. As I took a step up, I saw that she was leaned back. She looked what I thought was either maybe breastfeeding or nursing. I said to her, "Oh, it looks like you're busy. I can come back." As I turned around, she says, "No, that's okay. You can come in. Just look away." And I said, "Sure." Lively, undisputed that Lively directed Heath to turn around and that he initially did so. Disputed that Heath faced away from Lively throughout the conversation, during which and then everything's redacted. Statement 99. Disputed that Heath redacted. No, sorry. Lively has testified redacted, and then her response disputed that Heath redacted. 100. 2 weeks after the incident occurred and months before this litigation arose, Lively raised the incident with Heath for the first time. She told Heath, "I asked you to look away and at some point you made eye contact with me. I'm not saying you were trying to cop a look. I'm saying that I had asked you to turn away and you made eye contact with me." After expressing her displeasure, Lively moved on to other topics. Lively disputed, and the rest is redacted. Okay, the birth scene, we're going back. While shooting the scene, Lively was wearing a hospital gown, a prosthetic belly, and fabric over her genitals. There's obviously the video clip of this in evidence. They also refer to Lively's second amended responses to Wayfarer Studios' second set of interrogatories. Okay. Lively's response, disputed. While Lively wore a hospital gown, prosthetic belly, and a piece of fabric over her genital area, the clip in Wayfarer Exhibit 74 does not accurately reflect the manner in which the scene was filmed. during the filming of the birth scene, and then everything else is redacted. The Doctor, Adam Monshine, Lively alleged that an actor Baldoni knew was cast as the Doctor performing the delivery. Lively, undisputed. Statement 104, the actor playing the Doctor was a local union actor. Lively, disputed that the cited evidence is admissible and sufficiently that the actor playing the OBGYN was a local union actor. I mean, that just seems, again, it's nitpicky. Lively has subsequently alleged that Steve Sauerwitz was present on set during the birthing scene. Lively, undisputed. Sauerwitz testified that he was not on set during the filming of the birthing scene. He arrived later after the scene was filmed. In fact, he only visited the set twice. He visited briefly for part of one day and just a few minutes on another day, which happened to be the day that the birthing scene was shot. And then something is redacted. Vivian Baker, is that like, is it the hair or the makeup person or an assistant? Part of her testimony to support that is redacted. Lively, undisputed as to Sauerwitz and Baker's testimony. Disputed as to the remainder. Lively recalls Sauerwitz being on set during the birthing scene. In response to whether he was essential crew to be on that set that day, Sauerwitz stated, "While I may have technically been non-essential, I did invest $30 million and paid for her salary, or at least my share of it, as well as other actors, and I consider that to be essential." Lively considers that not to be essential. She can send me a check. I can give her an address, or you could give it to her. Sauerwitz later spoke to Adam Monshine, who appeared in the birthing scene, regarding events on set. Monshine did not raise anything negative about his experience on set and shared a positive experience. He confirmed that Sauerwitz was not on set during the filming of the scene. Lively. The defendant's assertion is unsupported by any admissible evidence, as Sauerwitz's testimony was based entirely on inadmissible hearsay. And technically, she's right. Recalling a conversation you're having with a third party is not evidence. It is hearsay. I mean, you could just ask Adam Monshine. Sauerwitz did not know what scenes were being filmed at any given time, and he made no conscious decision to see Lively in any particular scene while shooting. Sauerwitz did not know the birthing scene was being shot on the day it was shot. She's disputing it. Sauerwitz was made aware that the birthing scene would be filmed on April 22nd, 2023. On May 22nd, 2023. On May 15th, 2023, Sauerwitz's chief of staff emailed Wayfarer that Sauerwitz wanted to come to set on May 22nd, 2023. And on May 21st, 2023, Sauerwitz's chief of staff was sent the call sheet showing that the birthing scene would be filmed the next day. Yeah, but to dissect that a bit, right? He clearly wasn't coming with knowledge. Like on the 15th, so a week before the birth scene was shot, he'd already planned to visit on that day without knowledge that the birth scene was going to be filmed. It just happens that the day before, and these shots would have been planned a long time in advance. They have to be. It just happens to be that the chief of staff was sent the schedule for the following day's shoot, which was already well in advance planned. But he did not know that the birth scene was going to be filmed on the 15th when he expressed his intent to come and visit the set. So I see that as a nothing. All right. During his first visit on set, Sauerwitz spoke to Brandon Sklenar. Sklenar was effusive in his praise for Baldoni, his directing, Wayfarer, and how he had been treated in general. Okay. The defendant's assertion is unsupported by any admissible evidence, as Sarowitz's testimony was based entirely on inadmissible hearsay. Again, you could ask Brandon Sklenar, or there is an interview by People, a video interview on YouTube, where he pretty much says the same thing. Justin Baldoni was awesome, amazing to work with. It was a great environment to work in. You know, there is stuff, there is admissible evidence. So Lively's get around for that does not take her too far. During that first visit, Sarowitz also spoke to Lively for a minute or two. It was a very friendly meeting, and she did not voice any complaints. She does not dispute that. But she does refer the court to the deposition transcript for its complete contents. Point 111 is completely redacted, but she does not dispute it, whatever it is. Next point. Lively has never discussed with Sarowitz her claims of sexual harassment. Undisputed. On or about May 18th, 2023, Baldoni commented that actor Jenny Slate looked sexy in her character's wardrobe, which included black leather pants. He made this comment in the presence of others during the course of their work on the film. Lively's response, undisputed, that Baldoni told Slate she looked sexy. The remainder is disputed as incomplete and misleading. Baldoni told Slate, redacted. Slate testified that, redacted. Okay. On or about May 23rd, 2023, Lively testified that, redacted. Lively's response, undisputed, that, redacted. The remainder is disputed as incomplete and misleading because the cited testimony is taken out of context, and then the rest of the response is redacted. Point 115 is redacted. Lively's response, oh God. All right, here we go. Undisputed that Baldoni used the quoted words, but otherwise disputed as incomplete and misleading because the cited testimony omits critical context. On May 23rd, 2023, while shooting a bar scene in the presence of crew and multiple actors, Baldoni pressured Lively to remove her jacket to expose the partially unzipped onesie she was wearing underneath that revealed her lace bra. You know, why didn't she cover her lace bra? Lively removed her coat, and looking at her, Baldoni said, pretty hot. When I saw the video, the behind-the-scenes footage, I did not see her take the coat off. And then the next part is redacted. Lively responded, that's not what I was going for. Baldoni responded, stating, sexy, to which Lively responded, neither. And then the next part is redacted. Baldoni responded by rolling his eyes and stating, sorry, I missed the sexual harassment training before, redacted. That's been mischaracterized. We've all seen it. Video footage of the incident shows Lively was fully dressed in an oversized fleeced onesie at the time, that numerous actors and crew were also present and engaged in ongoing work at the time, that Baldoni's facial expression was neutral and not ogling or suggestive. No, he looked rather bored and frustrated, to be honest. And that after Baldoni apologized if his remark was inappropriate, Lively responded by saying, oh, good, yes, we heard that. She disputes it as incomplete and misleading because the footage in Wayfarer's Exhibit 281 omits critical context. On May 23rd, 2023, while shooting a bar scene in the presence of crew and multiple actors, Baldoni pressured Lively to remove her jacket to expose the partially unzipped onesie she was wearing underneath that revealed her lace bra. Lively removed her coat and looking at her, Baldoni said, pretty hot. And then there's a bit that's redacted. This is basically the same answer as before. Lively responded, that's what I'm going for. Baldoni responded, stated, sexy, to which Lively responded, neither. Something's redacted. Baldoni responded by rolling his eyes and stating, "Sorry, I missed the sexual harassment training before, redacted." Lively has testified that sometime in May 2023, Heath redacted showed Lively an image of his wife giving birth. Lively said she stopped watching the video because there was redacted in it. That's obviously Wayfarer's statement, as what they're saying is the allegations. Lively's response: undisputed that the quoted language appears in Lively's deposition, but Lively respectfully refers the court to the deposition transcript for its complete contents. Point 118. Heath and his wife had a home birth for their younger daughter using a birthing tub. Lively, undisputed. Baldoni had asked Heath to show Lively a video of the experience which Baldoni had previously seen, showing Heath and his wife in a birthing tub surrounded by their family. And something is redacted. Okay. Lively, undisputed that Baldoni asked Heath to show Lively the birth video, disputed that Heath showed Lively the portion of the video depicting Heath and his wife surrounded by their family. Also disputed that, and then it's redacted. Right. 120. Heath testified that he showed Lively a video depicting our midwife, my sister, my kids, my wife, myself, our newborn baby. I believe we were singing or praying. Heath and his wife were in a birthing tub with the baby who was covered in a towel. Lively, undisputed that Heath testified that he showed Lively a video depicting our midwife, my sister, my kids, my wife, myself, our newborn baby. I believe we were singing or praying. The remainder is disputed as incomplete and misleading, and then something's redacted. Point 121 is redacted completely. It's undisputed as to the language in Gianetti's deposition, but Lively respectfully refers the court to the deposition transcript. 122 is redacted entirely. Lively's response, undisputed that redacted. The remainder is disputed as incomplete and misleading because it omits critical subsequent events, and then the rest is redacted. Okay. So statement 123 is entirely redacted. Her response is undisputed, but Lively respectfully refers the court, and then the rest is redacted. Statement 124 is redacted. Her response, disputed that Heath showed Gianetti the image to the extent that it refers to the same material that Heath showed to Lively. Gianetti does not know if the video Heath showed her was the same video that Lively saw. So Jamie Heath showed Gianetti what he showed Lively. Statement 125 is redacted. Lively, undisputed that, redacted. Lively also alleges during the first phase of filming, while riding in the car with Lively, her assistant, and her driver, Baldoni stated that he had not always obtained consent before sex. Lively, undisputed. Baldoni was not questioned about this incident during 2 days of depositions. Lively, undisputed. So she didn't even ask him about it. He recalls a conversation with Lively in which he told her about his own experience of having a romantic partner go beyond his personal boundaries of consent. Lively, undisputed. So she's not disputing that actually it was someone else who did not obtain his consent, as opposed to him not always obtaining consent of other people. How? Baldoni has written about this experience in his published books and discussed in public talks. Lively, undisputed. Lively's subsequent conduct confirms Baldoni's account. In her protection demands, she objected to Baldoni referring redacted. Her response is undisputed that Lively objected to Baldoni referring redacted, disputed that redacted. On or about May 26, 2023, Lively and her baby contracted COVID on set. Lively undisputed. Other cast and crew members also got COVID. Lively undisputed. Lively included her COVID exposure in her list of incidents that required protections as Lively included her COVID exposure in her list of incidents that required protections as discussed below and alleges it is part of her harassment claims. Lively undisputed. If we just come out of a pandemic, COVID was still going around. I got COVID in 2022. I was hospitalized with it, actually. I was really severely affected by it. And I still am, which is why my voice keeps going all the time. Do I now sue Justin Baldoni because I got COVID? I mean, that's just so stupid. It was still quite prevalent as a virus. And if as long as you're adhering, I mean, there were no, I believe the restrictions were all lifted by middle of 2022. So, as long as everyone was adhering to any restrictions that there were, I don't see how Lively can say that, that porn that is part of her complaint. But if other cast and crew members got COVID, then how is it harassment towards Lively that she got it? I mean, this it's just nonsensical. It's just being petty at this point. Like, I don't like claims like that. That's pettiness. And it's done deliberately to imply something, that there was a kind of a negligence or, a refusal to follow rules and guidelines on set. It just adds further weight to it. And that's not the case. All right. Point 134 is redacted. Lively. Undisputed that on redacted. Disputed. Redacted. 135. An email on the same day. Lively redacted. Lively's email did not mention sexual harassment or discrimination or make any accusation that any conduct rising to that level had occurred. Lively. Undisputed that the document reflects the quoted language in the first sentence, disputed as to the second sentence to the extent it suggests that Lively was required to use specific buzzwords like, they're buzzwords now, are they? Sexual harassment or discrimination, or that Lively had not made any accusation stating that any conduct rising to that level had occurred. I disagree with that. If you are experiencing that, then why are you not just stating that that's how you feel, that's what your experience is? I don't understand. Well, I didn't say it, so it doesn't, but you can't say that I didn't feel it. The rest of the response is redacted because it's probably just a word salad. I'm getting annoyed now. I think people know when I get annoyed at things. Okay, 136 is redacted, and the second part is redacted. Her response is undisputed that redacted. The remainder is disputed as incomplete and misleading. The cited materials do not support the implication that redacted. On May 28th, 2023, Lively discussed the production with fellow cast member redacted. In this communication, redacted. Her response, undisputed that the quoted language is included in Wayfarer's exhibit, but Lively respectfully refers the court to the full communication for its complete contents and disputes any summary or interpretation inconsistent therewith. Okay. Next point. Lively did not contact Wayfarer's HR department during the production, nor did she file a formal sexual harassment complaint with Sony or Wayfarer's HR departments at any time. Okay. Lively. Undisputed that Lively did not contact Wayfarer's HR consultant or Sony's HR department. And that is, again, just to add a bit to that, she is saying that it was impossible and they blocked her from trying to speak out. She is now admitting she did not contact them. She's making such a big thing about, well, there's a hotline number, but it doesn't say you can report sexual harassment. But she didn't try it either. She has to mitigate some of this. You know, she cannot say, well, I didn't do this and I didn't do this, but it's still all their fault. She cannot say, make allegations that, you know, she was prevented, because this is what she actually said, she was prevented from voicing her concerns through HR channels. She can't say that when she has not even attempted to call them. If you email a department, that response is in writing as a written record of it. And there's nothing stopping her from doing that. And if she got nowhere, she would have had something in writing, date and time stamped, where she had attempted to express concerns to the HR department. Because at the end of the day, if you're not voicing the concerns to the HR department, who do oversee Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath as well, then what you can't really complain then that, you know, they did nothing. We know that some concerns were raised directly to Jamie Heath, to Justin Baldoni, and they apologized. We've seen text messages. We've, you know, had confirmation from Alex Sachs that they responded and apologized for anything where Lively felt uncomfortable. But she's admitting here now she did not contact Wayfarer's HR consultant or Sony's HR department. And I appreciate she then goes on to say, well, there's critical context that's missing from this, and all of that is redacted. So I'm open-minded to it. But yeah, why not? Why would you not? The rest of the response says the defendant's reference to a formal sexual harassment complaint is vague, undefined, and appears to be a legal conclusion. The cited materials do not support any implication that Lively failed to report her concerns. And yeah, I appreciate that she may have reported concerns, but, you know, also those concerns did not include anything about sexual harassment. They were about COVID. They were about the first assistant director, Julie Bloom, who Alex Sachs was, you know, not the main person who pushed for her to be fired, but she was right up there pushing alongside someone else. We now know a lot about this. Okay, so I am going to stop there because this is like a nice length of a video, and then I will move on to part 3. We are now 56 pages into 259 pages, so there is still quite a long way to go. It does get more interesting, and Van Zandt does come up. That's why I'm wanting to go through all of this, but we'll get there. All right, I will be back for the next video.